a it is not a religious it has no religious origins to it. Yes, there is a lot of bad that occurred after Thanksgiving. The pilgrims came, they fed them, and then they killed them. So we know that part is bad. But the part that coming together and eating and spending time with family, if we are going to go towards this type of extremist ideology in our religion, we're only hurting ourselves. Unfortunate reality is I've seen so many families that the parents are so, we use the term ishtadda, that they're, and this is not our Islam. Our Islam shouldn't be so hard and so rough that people just want to run from it, that even the family members of the same home want to just run away from it. So we have to really do some soul searching when it comes to what becomes our topics of discussion, what becomes our thought process that we are going to engage in at a time when there's so much more to talk about. So yeah, I thought I'd just share that with you, the Thanksgiving fatwa that it was haram. And you should not eat turkey on this day because it's haram. But then they give you the leeway, you can eat it a day before, a day after. So, well, guess what? There are people who are working out there in the world. They are eating a day before if they're working on Thanksgiving, or they're eating a day after. Depending on their work schedule. So it just doesn't add up. But again, sad reality of where our ummah is today, and may Allah Subhanahu wa Taala truly guide us. I mean, because what we're trying to do through this book is to explain how our lives will reflect positively on the society, not that the society's trends will reflect on us and indoctrinate us. We were doing this, the class, the holistic class, last month, and that the verses came up of وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, to kill in the path of Allah. What was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordering the Muslims to fight against? He was not ordering them to fight against an enemy. He wasn't ordering them to fight against a religion. He wasn't commanding them to fight against a specific tribe. He was commanding them to fight to uproot fitna and restore civility. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that وَالْفِتْنَةُ أَشَدُّ مِنَ الْقَتْلِ. The fitna in society is worse than killing. Now remember, they were at the bottom of the pedestal where they had no chance to explain Islam in Makkah, to present the notion of Islam in Makkah, to present how conducive society can be in Makkah. So they migrated, and after that migration, they actually started doing that. What was the reason Allah commanded war in Medina and not in Makkah? Is because they were in Makkah unable to present Islam's true picture. Then there's no need to fight the people who haven't seen it. But in Medina, now the world is seeing it. It took 2 years. The world is seeing it, and now people want to fight you. The disease of fitna, the cancer of fitna, is now moving 450 kilometers to 500 kilometers north. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like, kill that cancer. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if they stop, then you stop. وَقَاتِلُوهُمْ حَتَّى لَا تَكُونَ فِتْنَةً. And you will fight until there's no more fitna. What is the deen of Allah? وَيَكُونَ الدِّينُ لِلَّهِ. And that the religion becomes for Allah. What is that religion? Religion means a world that is free from fitna, the world that's free from intimidation and what you call it, violating people's rights, tyranny, challenging people because of their religions. Islam was told to stop all of that. So you can only stop all of that truly if you know who you are and what you present. The day that we as sisters and brothers are strong, confident Muslims in our world, we will actually be countering fitna. Our mere presence, our actions, our lifestyle, our demeanor will start to break the backbone of fitna, inshallah. And you won't have to fight for it. But they had to fight for it because they were on the bottom of things and they just started to rise and they were being thrown down. There was no choice left but to fight. Allah is not telling us this day and age to fight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to do jihadun nafs today. Jihadun nafs is fight your own self to do what you need to do. Fight your own self to be who you're supposed to be. Fight your own self to live the life that you're supposed to live. We should not have two lives, sisters. We should not have a life of the masjid or the life of public and the life of private. We should only have one life. And that life comes from the ideal Muslimah. What a Muslimah should be. If we understand that, then we'll understand who we are. If we understand who we are, then we'll understand what we can do. Once we start doing what we're supposed to do, then inshallah we'll see betterment come to ourselves, our world, and inshallah beyond. So that being said, we want to get back onto where we were. Again, once more, is there any questions, concerns, thoughts?
What is the fitna?
Fitna means strife. Fitna means where there is instability in society. It means where there is unassurity, where strife,
Like a
struggle, where stability is threatened, where our moral stability, our mental stability, our physical stability, our financial stability, religious stability, anything where the stability of society is threatened, this is a fitna. And that's what the tribalism of Makkah led that society towards. And now they were taking it outside the borders of that city into another one. And that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded all the commands of war came down in Medina. Why? Because if this cancer wants to remain in Makkah, Allah let it be. But if it's going to spread, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had commanded to stop it from spreading. So, alhamdulillah, I think if I'm not wrong, I read briefly on Senator Van Taylor's post just an hour ago that Plano was nominated the safest city in America, mashallah. So we should be proud to be part of a city where there's so much good. It's your responsibility to now uphold that good. A city doesn't become safe because of our elected officials. It becomes safe because of the people that they serve. So we have so much working in our favor as Muslims today. We should not get sidelined by these pettiful issues. I won't say anything else. They're just irrelevant issues that take us away from the reality of who we're supposed to be. And that again loops us back into becoming that Muslimah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be. Could anyone tell me, inshallah, what we were discussing 2 weeks ago before we eat turkey? Anyone? The Muslim woman's achievements. How many of us learned of a Muslimah, a Sahabiya, or someone else? Matter of fact, even Aisha radiallahu anha. How many of us first time learned the amount of skills that she had mastered? We all knew this, or was it the first time? It's amazing, isn't it? She was, mashallah, when it came to poetry, when it came to medicine, when it came to knowledge, she had what we can consider in today's world multiple degrees. So subhanallah, Islam did not put a cap on what a Muslimah can do. Rather, she should do what she pursues to do so long she can benefit herself, her family, and the society for the sake of Allah. And she doesn't put herself in a position where she compromises her religion. So this is, again, a very fine line. But if you understand that, then alhamdulillah, I think we should open the doors of knowledge for everyone. Let's go back to what was written here. Amongst the reports in which the books of literature speak of the vast knowledge of Aisha radiallahu anha is that which describes how Aisha bint Talha was present in the circle of Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, where the sheikhs or scholars of Banu Umayyah were present. They did not mention any point of Arab history, wars, and poetry, but she did not contribute to the discussion. And no star appeared, but she did not name it. So she, Aisha bint Talha, this is a new story, she is in the circle, a discussion where Hisham ibn Abdul Malik and the scholars of Banu Umayyah are sitting. And if they were talking about Arabic history, wars, or poetry, she also put her 2 cents into the discussion. If there were stars that were appearing in the sky, she was naming it. Hisham said to her, as for the first, i.e., knowledge of history, etc., I find nothing strange in your knowing about it. But where did you get your knowledge about the stars? She said, I learnt it from my maternal aunt, Aisha radiallahu anha. Subhanallah. So Aisha bint Talha says that she learned about the stars from her aunt Aisha. Aisha radiallahu anha had a curious mind and was always eager to learn. Whenever she heard about something she did not know, she would ask about it until she understood it. Her closeness to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam meant that she was like a vessel full of knowledge. Let me tell you one thing that will take knowledge away from you. Social media and cell phones. If you are going to rely on social media and cell phones, Google for knowledge, you're destroying yourselves. If there's one thing the mothers of today have to preserve, is the traditional method of learning, which means two things: going to a library, opening a book and researching, and number two, going to a learned person, sitting with them and learning from them. If we close the door on these two types of knowledges, we are going to be the cause of fitna. You know why? Because we have a new trend in many homes. Either it's Mufti Menk, or it's Nomani Khan, or it's Yasir Qadi, or it's, speakers. Turn on YouTube all day and listen. That's none of my business. That's good for you, everyone, whoever does it. But to then say, I'm learning from this, is very dangerous. You cannot learn from these unconventional means. You can only learn when you become a student. We are taught in our traditions and our knowledge, when a person steps out of their house, Man salaka tariqan yaltamisu fihi ilma. You need to leave your comfort zone to learn Islam. Allah will make the path for Jannah easy for you. Sahalallahu lahu bihi tariqan ila al-Jannah. Knowledge means that you put your world aside, you sit down as an observing student. You understand the difference? Knowledge means you actually step out to learn, not that you're doing things around the house or exercising and listening. This is not knowledge, because the promise of the angels, the promise of the Prophet ﷺ is that the angels will spread their wings under your feet. On the footprints where you walk, you'll be walking on the wings of angels. Why? Because you're now a student. Knowledge is different than listening. Learning entails movement, respect, and time. You have to leave your comfort zone. You need to sit with someone in a class or whatever, or go to a library and sit with a book and learn accordingly. This is true knowledge. The other is information. Anything that's done in a customary way of, just turning it on, this is just information. It is not knowledge. The difference between information and knowledge will help mold your life. Information will just put more load on yourself. Yes, sister, sorry.
What about the concept where they say, okay, it's better for sister to confine to the house somewhere? Is there such a thing?
Aisha radiallahu anha, she was a student and then she was a teacher. See, when we talk about the cultural confinements of things, I want to explain that. There was reasons behind why at certain times or in certain places certain measures were taken. For example, we learned in this book in the beginning of the year that during one of the prayers, one lady was harassed. Coming to the prayer of the Masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, she was harassed. And the Prophet ﷺ was very concerned, but he wanted to make sure that the sisters wouldn't stop coming because of that. Right? So the society wasn't a conducive society. The wives of the Prophet ﷺ were told to fully veil and cover, and this was given as a command for their distinction amongst the people, so that it would prevent them from being harmed, because the people would realize that these were the wives of the Prophet. Now, why was this needed? Because kidnapping, looting, it was the norm. So when Islam came, it came in an uncivil society to make them what is truly known as civilized, what is truly known as a structured people, what is truly known as a forward-thinking people. So in the course of that, there were things that were needed to be done. In our day and age, sister, if you are living in a Muslim country or non-Muslim country, so long that you are not threatened, so long that you do not get lured by immodesty or immorality, so long, number three, you yourself do not become a fitna for people, it's fine. But remember, there are parameters. And sometimes within one and the same society, there may be different parameters. So we have to understand that for ourselves, not our society. You cannot say, I'm living in Mecca or I'm living in Saudi Arabia and we can do what we want because society is so perfect. Society isn't perfect there. There's a lot of kidnapping there. There's a lot of different things that happen there. So don't put your guard down because of the place you live or the people you're around. Remember, so long you're not threatened. Our fiqh tells us that if your life is threatened, don't even come for prayer. If it's raining bad or it's a storm and you could be in an accident, don't even come to the masjid for prayer. How beautiful is our religion? But you can't teach this to people. It was kind of astonishing to me, and I was happy when I saw from the Dulles Islamic Center and from Boston and different masjids, when they sent out these emails saying, no one come to masjid tonight, masjid will be closed, we're not having programs, we're not having classes, the weather is bad, the forecast is bad, pray at your homes. Now then there'll be some people who say, astaghfirullah, you're closing the house of Allah. But our religion teaches us that if there's going to be a threat, you don't come. So understand the wisdom of our religion. If there's a threat for you to go to UTD, if it's a threat on your life, if it's a threat on your morality, if it's a threat on your sanity, if it's a threat on your physical being in the sense of my spirituality can be threatened, then I'm not going to go. You know, we're hearing the worst of things, and I think I told this last year to you all. We got a question asked last year or the year before that the parents send their daughter to a university in the dorm with another Muslim sister. Sounds good, right? Two Muslim sisters living in a dorm together. But now she's having a sex change, gender change. What's the hukum now? Think about this. This is what we're facing. And if we're going to send our children, say, oh, Islamic culture is wrong, you're supposed to learn, get out there and learn, and they come back losing their Islam, losing their spirituality, losing their moral compass, losing their identity, we did wrong. Doesn't matter if it's in Mecca or if it's in Plano. So, yes, our Islam gave permission, but remember always the parameters. Those parameters need to be always up. It doesn't matter where you are. Because remember, you could be standing by the Kaaba and someone can rob you. Right? It happens. So you don't put your guard down there. And what we are taught by our scholars at that time is, nor do you become a fitna for that. Imagine someone is flashing their money, or they pull out their thick wallet, and they give like a 5 riyal to one of the workers. Someone else saw that wallet. You became the cause of the person practicing their bad habit in the wrong place. So again, we cannot blame ourselves and we cannot blame society. We need to factor both when we make decisions to do anything in our life.
Is it, I had heard a while ago that if your life is on stake, during these times that you're Muslim and they tell you at gunpoint, say that you're not a Muslim. Somebody told me it's permissible to say at that moment that I can vote or yes, I'm not a Muslim. Is it true?
Quran says that. إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. We talked about it in earlier stories, that when the Sahabas were tortured, there's one Sahabiya, her family was tortured. Her husband denounced Islam. He said, I'm not a Muslim. And they let him go. And the Prophet ﷺ said it was okay because the torture was so severe that they felt that they would lose not just their life but their Islam. So they denounced Islam. So there are in our history a couple of male Sahabas who denounced it for face value, but in their heart they were still Muslims. But amongst the female Sahabiya that were tortured, none of them ever renounced their Islam. None of them. This goes to show the resilience, the determination of our female Muslimas, and how that, yes, that answers both the question that you're asking and also how they endured the hardship. Now, understand, if a person is in a threat of that style, then the Uyghurs, what's happening to them? Allah is pardoning them. They're being told to change their names. They're being told to eat pork. They're being told to drink alcohol. They're being told not to pray. Allah's pardoning them because their situation is there's nothing else. But we here are not waking up to realize that if we don't strengthen our identity tomorrow, forget the government, forget law, the people will strip our hijabs off our head. And we don't get it yet. And that's what I'm saying. It's just common sense. If you smell smoke, there's a fire. The world is, there's fires enough in this world that everyone is smelling smoke now. But we're still very naive for some reason. So if we don't strengthen that the debate stops about should our name be Aisha or Amy, or if I should wear a hijab or not, or if I should pray or not, if we as Muslims don't get beyond this, we're going to be the first ones to fall. Because the Christians do pray sometimes. Do they not pray in schools? When they're going to go to sports, they do their cross. They write their verses of Mark or Luke on their hats or their shirts or their shoes, right? The Jews do their prayer also. Everyone's praying, but they're not making an issue out of it. They're just doing it. But here the Muslims are, oh, we need to fight so that high school they could pray Jummah. Just go pray. Why does it have to be such a big thing? We're making a lot of noise as Muslims. And because we're making a lot of noise, we don't get to the Bakri that says meh, the mosque is the first one to get slaughtered. So you better just be quiet, just do your thing. Because the person's going to look for the other Bakri, they're not going to look for you. We're making too much noise as Muslims right now. We want to still have a hijab debate. We're having fast-a-thons in universities, which are fine. But the Jews fast also, the Christians fast also, the Hindus fast also, right? The Hindus also fast. So everyone fasts, but they're not making it into a big thing. You know why? Because we're insecure.
No, but what about I'm in the middle of the street, it's Maghrib time, I have to pray. I used to pray in my car, and then somebody told me, no, you have to be standing up and praying the proper way. Park your car, go to Musalla, and do it accordingly. My husband is he's very careful about those things, and he really doesn't appreciate it. He said, well, you're praying in the car. According to a friend of mine, she said, it's dawah, you're doing dawah, you're not hurting anybody, you're in a parking lot, you're doing your own thing. So, what is the right thing to do? I mean, we are doing dawah, but at the same time, am I making somebody uncomfortable? Am I being the focal point in that area? And because you're in that.
So that's why we're doing this book specifically, so that we understand our level of confidence. And based on our level of confidence, we can make decisions accordingly. Now, as I just said, we're living in the safest mashallah city in America. I don't foresee, personally, that someone's going to come and stick a gun out at us because we're praying across Crystal Banquet, for example. Number two is we have so many masajid. If there is time, you could run to a masjid or musalla and pray easily. If not,
I'm in the middle of highway or something.
if that's the case, if you're in the middle of somewhere, you stopped at a rest area somewhere, you stopped at Buc-ee's or something like that, and you don't want to step out and pray. Praying in the car doesn't invalidate the prayer. It was your decision based on the circumstances that you felt was best for you. So you judged it out. If I stopped at Buc-ee's, I would think twice to stand outside and pray. That's a typical, different area altogether, right? So unless I wear a cowboy hat and boots and do it, I know it's going to be different. But you have to judge it out yourself. As Muslims, the circumstance will allow us to make the right decision. But if we're just going to say, regardless if I'm in the masjid parking lot or if I'm anywhere else. I'm just gonna sit in my car and pray.
That is
That's
understandable.
that's different. But again, there's not one answer for that. For example, on the planes, before people used to stand up and pray, and the airlines would accommodate it, keeping in mind it was very it caused a lot of problems for the air hostesses, security wise, food wise. It caused problems, but they let it slide. Then 9/11 happened. Now the law and the rule commonly it's across the board, no congregating in any place in the prayer. They're not talking about Muslims. Congregation means coming together. So even if two, three of you friends are flying together and you come together at one place by the bathroom or by the emergency exit and start talking, that's called congregating. If there's a marshal on the plane, which there is, they'll tell you to sit down. If you don't sit down, you'll be arrested. Why? Because it's a perceived threat. Now, even in Muslim airlines, everyone will say, get up and go stand up and pray. And now think about it. There's 300 or 200 people on this plane. Everyone's going to stand up and go pray. When are we going to finish a prayer? Especially like Fajr. Fajr comes in when you're flying. Within 30 minutes max, it's done. Fajr is done within 30 minutes. If you're lucky, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So now everyone's going to stand up and start going praying, and they'll tell you, no, you cannot sit and pray. No, the right thing to do is to sit and pray in a plane, regardless if you're not in the right direction, because it is going to cause a great inconvenience to the security of all the people on the plane, just because you want to stand up and pray. So the circumstances help dictate the situation on the ground. And that's why there should never be a one fatwa. If you followed what your friend said, no, you should get out and pray to dawah. Allah forbid you may be in the wrong place at the wrong time trying to do dawah, and it's going to come against you. Right? And if you follow what your husband said, sit down and pray always, you may be at the best place to pray, but you've made it a habitual practice that you're going to sit and pray. And sitting and praying is a very dangerous thing. You know why? Because some of us, sometimes we're exhausted, we just sit and pray. Okay, let me just sit, at least I'm praying. And it becomes a habitual practice. You have no physical ailment, but बैठ के नमाज पढ़ लेंगे. Why? Betke is for people who are crippled, like who have real issues. Like there's reason for that. Namaz is also lying down. If you're in a hospital bed and you're really bad, you can even pray with the ishara of eyes. But then if that laziness comes in, I'll be close to a masjid, I could go in 2 minutes and pray, but no, I'll just park my car here and pray. It becomes a bad habit. That's why I don't want any of us to make up a hard and fast mindset. I'm going to do like this, or I'm not going to do this, because circumstances always change, and let those circumstances dictate, and don't just go according to one way, because if we don't know who we are and what we can do, we're not making decisions for ourselves. As a matter of fact, most of these decisions we can make for ourselves. You don't have to call a mufti hotline for this. It's like it's self-explanatory, right? And I was giving an example here just a few weeks ago. There was an uncle that we were going to Ottawa pick up the passports and visas for Saudi, and I had the habit of course getting out and praying. And his uncle said, "बैठ के पढ़ लेंगे गाड़ी के अंदर." And I said, "Uncle, no, we'll stop somewhere." By the time we did stop at the rest area, the snow was so bad, the wind was howling. Then he goes to me now, "Imam Sahab, aap bataye." He was very calm. "Imam Sahab, aap bataye." Like, Imam Sahab ke liye nahi padhenge. Why? You can't go outside. It's crazy. The weather's bad. So wisdom is needed in this, and not fatwas. So I think you can make the right decision, inshallah, according to situation. Alhamdulillah. So the first thing we need to create, going back to this, is the curious mind, sisters. A curious mind is always willing to learn. We have to have a craving to learn. And again, knowledge is something that you learn when you step out of your comfort zone. You go to a person or a place and you sit down and you actually acquire it with respect. This is called knowledge. But even if it's not knowledge, why should we not know what's happening in the world? Many times, parents and children have a strained relationship because the children says, "Mom and dad know nothing about social media, or they know nothing about a cell phone or Facebook." Okay, they don't know. Fine, granted. Because technology is always speeding up and they don't have the inclination to use those tools, so they don't know. But if there was an opportunity to know something, why wouldn't I go and find out? If there's a seminar being held in the library, how to ensure that your child is using a phone correctly. Why not go and learn that? It may not be knowledge as we consider it. Remember, knowledge is everything. And if you go out for that, I'm confident that you will learn something that you can help protect your children's life. How many apps are like calculator app? Now you take your child's phone, you open up, it says calculator. Oh, mashallah, my child's studying algebra. You open up, it's a dating chat. There's so much happening on cell phones nowadays. You'll be amazed. You could give your children YouTube and think, okay, they're doing good. I tell people, if you want to give your child a source of entertainment, I'd rather give him a TV instead of a cell phone or a laptop or a tablet. You know why? This TV, you can tell Daniel Tiger's coming on, Curious George is coming on. You know what's coming on. On this, you don't know what's coming on. And sometimes they get into the children's YouTube and they go into all these weird types of things, movies. You don't even know what they're watching. But so you're like this, okay, they're quiet, that's fine, I got peace. No, you need to learn. If you're raising your children here, you need to learn about the place here. So there's never a dull moment in a Muslima's life where she doesn't have the opportunity to learn. And remember, if this brain is not working towards learning and making the right decisions of what they're learning, our brains will be brainwashed right away. If you're not learning, you're going to be brainwashed. Because then an inactive brain will be told what to think, what to believe, how to act, but you're not learning these things. That's what movies do to you. It's an inactive brain. You just sit there and it tells you what to do. If you watch a movie with the intent to learn something, I promise you could walk away from any given movie. You could watch Frozen 2 and walk away and write a one-pager about what this movie was trying to tell you. Right? Nothing. Well, she took the horse back towards an island. So there's a part 3 coming up, right? You'll learn something. But if you're just watching it for the sake of entertainment, yes, I watched Frozen 2, sorry. And if you do it for the sake of just entertainment, it will indoctrinate you. How? I wish we should have hairstyle like that. A dress like that is not bad. Shoes like that are good. It indoctrinates you. I remember once we were in an Islamic camp, winter camp, and they made us watch a movie. And it was very odd because it was 2 weeks of, a lot of physical skills, mental skills, Islamic spiritual skills, but there was never TV or anything else. And they made us watch a movie, and then they said, what did you learn from this? They were teaching us there should never be a dull moment where you can take a lesson out. It doesn't have to be a positive lesson. You can identify what they're trying to tell you. That's called being smart. And we as a people, in this day and age, we really need to be smart as Muslims. We shouldn't be behind the curve at all. So this goes back to our mother of believers, Aisha radiallahu anha. And as the author writes, she had a curious mind, was always eager to learn. Whenever she heard about something she did not know, she would ask about it until she understood it. Remember the story that comes in Hadith that the Abyssinians were doing wrestling or something in the masjid, and she was watching over the shoulder of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What was she doing? Entertainment? Or was she learning something? You don't know what life skill can actually save your life if you learn. For example, if we have children, we have family members. Allah forbid if our in-laws or our parents or our child is choking right now. Do we know what to do? Most of us go and slap the back. It's like if it's choking, you're gonna make sure it's wedged in there for good. You don't do ocho pani pio, pani pio. No, you don't give water. The person's just trying to get air into their thumb. Do you know what the maneuver is? If Allah forbid someone collapsed, do you know how to give CPR? Oh, we don't have to learn these things. That goes to show we don't have a learning mind. It's not important. We can call 911. By the time 911 comes, if a person is deprived of oxygen to the brain, they're gone. Think about these things. There should never be a dull moment in my life. I should always be learning something. And those who learn are the ones who succeed. Because think about it. Nowadays, like if you like if we're talking the other day about Uber and Airbnb, how they changed industries, right? They changed a whole industry of hospitality and also taxi service. If you go to New York, those medallions cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. There was a time when they were auctioning 5 or 6, and it was a lot of money. But now Uber came. And those people, some of them committed suicide because you cannot pay for that medallion. Medallion allows you to drive a taxi in New York. You know how much money you can make driving a taxi? Not anymore, because Uber came about. How did Uber come about? All they had to do is read. If you want to start something new, read the laws. Read what the do's and don'ts are, and you'll find loopholes. Where is there a law that says I cannot keep someone in my house as a guest and financially get money from that? So how these industries came about, all they did was read. They read what was out there and they wrote what wasn't out there. And they made it of benefit to themselves. What am I doing for myself? How much am I learning truly on a daily basis? I as a male, aspire to be like Aisha radiallahu anha, who was a master in so many knowledges, who had a curious mind, who was always learning, and mashallah, then the world came to her and she taught the world. Radiallahu anha. Imam Bukhari reports from Abu Mulaika that Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, never heard anything that she did not know, but she would keep going over it until she understood it. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever is brought to account will be punished. Aisha radiallahu anha said, I said, but does Allah not say, soon his account will be taken by an easy reckoning? Look at this. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever is brought to account will be everyone punished. Do you understand the statement? Rasulullah is saying, whoever Allah takes account from on the day of judgment, they will be punished. So Aisha radiallahu anha said, but does Allah not say soon? In Quran, Allah says in chapter 84, verse 8, soon his account will be taken by an easy reckoning. Allah is saying in Quran that account will be taken in an easy way. He said that refers to al-arad, presentation, when everyone will be brought to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But whoever is examined in detail will be doomed. Subhanallah, look at this conversation. So she heard from the Prophet ﷺ, which she cross-examined, said, no, but the Quran doesn't say this. It was an inquisitive mind that gave us this answer. He said that whoever, let me take this example and give it a better analogy. Whoever submits their taxes to the IRS before the 15th of April will not be punished. Make sense? And so she's like, no, you could do an extension. He says, whoever presents their taxes, regardless if it's April or August, will not be punished. But if IRS audits you, you're doomed. Do you understand that now? It's exactly what happened here. He's like, whoever Allah will hold will be punished. And she's like, no, but Allah didn't say that. Allah said everyone will have easy. And she said, Rasulullah responded to her, the people who have it easy that Allah said are the people that when they rise on the day of judgment, Allah will make it easy for them. They will rise, they will come, and they'll go. Some Allah will, according to hadith, Allah will take 3 handfuls. Only Allah knows the size of his hands. Of this ummah, he'll pick it up and put them into paradise. Pick it up, put them into paradise. Because Rasulullah was saying, Ya Allah, take my ummah to Jannah without hisab, without auditing. And Allah will do 3, and then he'll say, no, now it's time for hisab. So whoever is brought forth and just present in front of Allah and move on, they'll have it easy. But if Allah says, well, wait 1 second, what's this? Because remember, on the day of judgment, there's no debating with Allah. You don't need an attorney. Allah doesn't need evidence. Your books, which are here right now, people used to make fun of it, subhanAllah, one time. How is this angels writing books here? I don't feel the weight. You can take a microchip this small and record so much on it, yes or no? You could, now it's becoming such a nanotechnology, small things and so much on it. Your microchips right now, let's call microchips a recording. On the day of judgment, it's going to be put on this table here. A table we brought, your books are in front of you. Iqra kitabak. Allah will say, read your book. Your book is in front of you. Kafa bi nafsika al-yawma alayka hasiba. You are a good enough judge for yourself today. I don't need to tell you. So you could figure it out. But Allah forbid, if He says on that day, what is this? Right? When a person says, okay, this cake, I baked this cake, here it is. And you're like, oh, mashallah. But he's like, well, 1 second. It's sinking over here. And it's going green on this side. And the bottom looks raw. You see what happened? One thing led to another. If you see one thing wrong, you'll start seeing more things wrong. If Allah was to ask us on that day, what is this? We are doomed. That's what Rasulullah said. And what the Quran said is the people who will have easy reckoning will be the ones who will raise with ease and they will move on with ease. So because Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha questioned by cross-referencing his statement, he clarified for us both in their respective ways and he taught us something new. This was Aisha radiallahu anha. And that's why learning entails asking questions. Don't just go sit down and read the book or just listen and walk off. Ask the questions. We need to interact. If we're not interacting, then that means we're not going to understand it. Just say someone gives a 30-minute lecture and you walk off home, but you didn't question something. It was on your mind. And you took that 30-minute segment, which was saying something, and you took it to mean something else. That knowledge didn't benefit you. So if you have the opportunity, do ask. And inshallah, we are going to start something here, inshallah, weekly, where everyone will have a chance to ask our scholars and interact, inshallah, because we would have a better system of learning if there was interaction of that kind.
I felt the same way about the conference. It was a wonderful conference. I was here Friday and Saturday, but I felt like QA, people had so many questions, and hopefully next year, inshallah, if it's more interactive, where people can, actually get the answers and have spend time.
Sure. Jazakallah khair. We're having our meeting tonight to follow up on the conference.
I did the survey.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to be going over, mashallah, all the survey. If you haven't done the survey, sisters, please advise your family members and yourself to do it by 4 or 5 o'clock this evening, the latest, because we're going to be going through the survey, inshallah, and our goal is, inshallah, to better it every year. But what was one of the driving points that I presented in this conference, mashallah, was a team effort, but this was my thing. I want to make this conference different than every other conference you go to. And how it's going to be different is going to be a very defined timeline of speaking and then engagement. What I had envisioned was if there's a speaker or two speaking, after they speak for 20 minutes of the 50, additional scholars would be on standby to sit with you in the crowd. We'd make circles in the crowd and have interactions, but we didn't have enough scholars to do that. It's a vision we're going to keep on continuing. So we've got a lot of positive feedback like that, and thank you for that. We want to continue those interactions. We want to continue those questions and answers, because I feel that actually gives you something to take home. If not, you're like, no, he said this. No, but they meant this. No, but they meant that. And now there's just an argument at home when two people heard the same thing but understood it differently.
The other thing I also felt, we talk about many different subjects, but sometimes in certain subjects, we need solutions also.
Right.
We all know the problems, we all are going through, and they are like, of course, you cannot pinpoint, everybody is different, but some generalized answers to the problems, which is very important. In a short time, asking question answers, all of that is sometimes impossible.
True.
So the Imam or the Shia, whoever they are, they can even give some solution, you can do this way, this way, this way. And everybody can cater or, maneuver things around according to
And we did ask all the speakers that they would provide some practical solutions. You don't have to give A to Z, just give them A. Let people start with something, and they could figure out. If we don't give people a step, then we're all going to be lost in our own respective ways. And sometimes it's actually depressing. If you come to a speech or a lecture and you hear about forbearance and endurance despite all the calamities and tragedies, and you're like, okay, first of all, I thought I was a bad Muslim because all these bad things are happening to me. Now I think I'm an even worse Muslim because I don't even have the patience to endure it. So you go out more depressed than you were. And so it gets confusing. And the intent wasn't from the speaker this, but that's why I always tell people when you speak, put yourself in the audience's shoes. Understand where they're sitting and what they're listening to and what they're facing, and speak to them as you would want to be spoken to in regards to these issues. So, no, inshallah, we're going to, with your du'as and everyone's efforts, we're going to continue this. As we said, every year is going to be a different subtopic. Never too late is going to be our permanent theme, inshallah. And I think there's so much to address under never too late. You know, so alhamdulillah, inshallah. In addition to her great knowledge, Aisha radiallahu anha was also very eloquent in her speech. When she spoke, she captured the attention of her audience and moved them deeply. This was what made Al-Ahnaf ibn Qais rahimahullah say, I heard the speeches of Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, and the Khulafa, radiallahu anhum, may Allah be pleased with all of them, who came after them. But I never heard any speech more eloquent and beautiful than that of Aisha radiallahu anha. Now, how many questions is that answering right now? She spoke to the general masses. She spoke with modesty, many times behind the veil, but she spoke. Where has our ummah gone today? It is so, you have either people who say there should be a female in the panel, or we'll put a female in the panel so people don't think we're just masculine, like, we're all about men and not women. We're talking about knowledge here. If there was 9 Aisha radiallahu anha here, we want all 9 of them to teach us. This is a person who's not a Sahabi who's saying that I've heard all the Khulafa Rashidin speak, but how Aisha radiallahu anha spoke, it moved us. So we learned that she spoke eloquently, she taught the general masses, and a thing that could relate to us today, she spoke eloquently, which means she spoke what was correct. Nowadays, we're using a lot of terminologies to kind of fit in with our children, like woke and stuff like that. We don't need to. Do you even know what woke means? Do we understand what? Go into dictionary and look what does woke mean. Like, it has, people could say it's being used differently in a different context, but she was eloquent. Don't let the Doras and Diegos and all these people take your English away from you. Teach your children the best of English. Teach your children the best of language. It's always considered that when a person learns another language, they learn a bad word or a bad sentence or a bad phrase. Let us teach everyone the best. And I think one of the greatest struggles we have right now in America, Joe Biden just launched his campaign. Have you seen his campaign bus? If you haven't, just Google it. What is that word? Malarkey. Like, no malarkey. It's not even an English word. And then he tries to define it as a noun and stuff. Like, what is wrong with you? We are destroying a language on the basis of which our knowledge depends. Do you understand that? When we are destroying English language, what are we going to learn? Truly, how many ancient texts are now being translated into English? Why did we in madrasas learn Farsi and Urdu before Arabic? Why was it? Because majority of the Islamic text was already translated into Farsi. And so if you wanted to understand the understanding that they had of the Arabic text, we learned Farsi. But then they stopped teaching Farsi in the 70s. And then it was Urdu. Why? Because after Farsi, majority of the Islamic text has been translated into Urdu. So you learned Urdu not just to understand what was said, but also the perspective they got from what they understood from Arabic. English was a language that in England, in the Darul Ulooms there, until now they're doing English. They really didn't do English. Why? Number one, there was no text. There was no text of those documents in English. So it's being translated. But truth be told, if you understand any language outside of English, you will know that those languages are rich in emotions and connections, and English isn't. English is a very dead language. Like grandfather's grandfather. But in Urdu, it's dada or nana, right? It's a very rich language. It has an emotional connotation to it, has some connection to it, which English doesn't have. So we learned those languages to understand better what was being said in Arabic. But nevertheless, the point is, Language is detrimental and important. It is vital, it is vital for understanding your knowledge. And if the English language becomes a joke, as it is in our world today, we've just destroyed the foundation of knowledge.
More like acronyms nowadays.
Mhm.
Less English, LOL, LMFA, and all kinds of.
Well, if you look at it, you've gone from they give when I was in Tampa Airport, they have a new terminal built for the car rentals, and when you get there and you come up the escalator, behind you is a wall, uh, 3 times the size of this wall, has all emojis on it. And people say we came from the time of the pyramids where they drew things, and we went to writing things. Now we're drawing things again. And think about it. The other day I was sending, this happened a little while back. I was sending something to a friend with an emoji. So the Android version was different than the Apple version. And so when you send in the Android, you're saying something, but the Apple recipient was saying something else. So, you know, it's scary.
Yeah.
And if you think you can communicate with emojis, you're creating a storm. If there's something that needs to be communicated, never communicate it through these means, communicate in person. If it's important, for example, if someone's asking a question, they want to understand something, they may misinterpret your words, your method, and say, "Are you You haven't seen the person. We're saying he's getting angry. They might have put a red face because they're frustrated. You say, "Are you So it's better to talk about those things in person. So communication, language, acronyms, emojis, and sadly, the ability to even speak is being lost from our children today. They're graduates of universities. They cannot stand up for 2 minutes and talk. So where's our education? Think about this. If the education doesn't empower you to just speak, I don't care what you speak about. You could speak about your car. You could speak about where you bought the shirt from. Just talk. But if you can't speak, and if you do utter something, it is not in the grammatical context of what the language is telling you, there's something wrong. And so this is very important. Another thing we learned, Aisha radiallahu anha was very eloquent in her speech. Musa ibn Talha radiallahu anha said, "I never saw anyone more eloquent and pure in speech than Aisha radiallahu anha." Do you understand what's happening here? Male sahabas or tabi'een are attesting to what a female sahabi, the mother of believers radiallahu anha, was known for in her speech. This is amazing.
Define what do they mean by eloquent?
Eloquent means, well, that's Arabic.
What they meant, like
yeah.
clear, was she
She was, I think you could say her words were clear, her words were selective, because Arabic language, one word can be used in 30, 40 different ways. So jalasa and qa'ada both means to sit, right? Sakata, samata both means to be quiet, but which one is used for which term, it has a purpose of its usage. So she used the right words, she used it in right palatable sentences that allowed every person that got up from there to understand the same thing. So speed, context, relevancy, selection of words, and the amount that she dispersed is so important. So, and again, it's not something that you can learn from a book. You learn with experience, but it takes time. But she took the time to learn this. So this is actually what is the most admirable quality. She took the time to learn it to the extent that other learned persons understood how learned she was. Another of these brilliant women who achieved high level of knowledge was the daughter of Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, the scholar of his age, who refused to marry his daughter to the Khalifa Abdul Malik ibn Marwan and instead married her to one of his righteous students. So this is a scholar. His daughter was proposed to by Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. He said no, she's not going to marry him, but rather she went on to marry one of the students, Abdullah ibn Wada. Abdullah went into his Abdullah radiallahu anhu went to the home of his wife, who was one of the most beautiful of people and one of the most knowledgeable in the Quran, Sunnah, and the righteous Where did I just go there? Who was one of the most knowledgeable in the Quran, Sunnah, and the rights and duties of marriage. In the morning, Abdullah got up and was prepared to go out. His wife asked him, "Where are you going?" He said, "To the circle of your father, Sayyid ibn al-Musayyib, so I may learn." She said, "Sit down. I will teach you what Saeed knows." For 1 month, Abdullah did not attend the circle of her father because the knowledge that this beautiful young girl had learned from her father and was passing on to him was sufficient. So understand this. Scholar's daughter did not marry the Khalifa, married a student. He, after going to his wife's house and after marriage, is going to learn from her father again. She says, "No, I will teach you." What is this thing telling us? As mothers, as wives, as human beings, whatever we learn, we should learn it in a way that we have full confidence to teach it to our children. Full confidence to teach it to those in our home. If we listen to a class or a khutbah, whatever else, we can come home and actually talk about it. If we're learning knowledge, and we're not dispersing of knowledge. Let me tell you one of the tricks that we use in institutes. We learn for 4 or 5 hours in the morning. We have a 1 hour lunch break and laundry or whatever else you have to do. Then we have 3 or 4 hours of academics. Then we have 2 hours of break. And then we have 2 hours of takrar. We call it takrar. What is takrar?
Debate.
Like debate, where we sit in class. Our class sits in circles of 4, and these are defined circles. And in that, each one of us becomes a teacher of what we learned today and teach it to the other. That's the best way of learning. So you actually sit with someone and you teach them what you know, makes you learn that thing better. If we are just learning, and just say in one house, there are 4 different students, a student of academia, a student of Islam, a student of the Arabic language, a student of a certain trade or something, or a skill like cooking or stitching, whatever else. And we in this one house cannot share that knowledge. Let me teach you this. It takes that one sentence, right? Let me teach you this. Or can I learn this from you? But within one house, we can't learn from each other. Then we should fear that we may fall into the category of what Allah says, like the donkey that holds books. كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. We cannot become donkeys in our home. That we all know something, but we can't transmit that knowledge. You're empowering someone. A person who is empowered by one skill could become a tool of changing this world tomorrow. One person's hand. Look, cooking isn't, for example, cooking, which many people look down upon nowadays. It is a amazing skill. And it's not just the recipe. You can steal recipes. It's in the hand. Now you may teach a son or a daughter or someone. You're sitting around right now doing nothing. Come, let's learn how to do this together. And they will open up a door that they thought they never had in their life. Your daughter's doing Arabic, and she's like, "Okay, Mom, come sit down. I'll teach you a few words." And those 2-3 words become lifesaver for you if you're stuck in the deserts of Africa or Morocco or Tunisia or somewhere. Just think about this. It's a matter of channeling the knowledge. So she was so confident as the daughter of the father, who is a teacher of so many people, that she said to her husband, "You don't need to go, I'll teach you." And she taught him for a month, and he didn't go to the father for 1 month. I'm sure the father was mad. What's going on here? I lost my best student here. But the thing was, no, because knowledge should be dispersed like this. Now, if you think about this, you want to check up a restaurant, or you want to check up something. I usually go to Yelp. Why? I shouldn't. Dallas Havas, which one? so if I'm
Yelp actually asks you for money, and if you pay them that money, that's how you get reviews. So
see, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I would go to Yelp. Why? Because I found it to be a conducive interaction, and where is this, where is that, and there's a lot of things now. So I go to Yelp. Some people go to Google. Some people go to Dallas Halal Buzz, whatever they go to, right? Now, why do I go to these places? Ask yourself, why do I go to these places? Because I feel that the knowledge that they have is what I'm looking for. So if you understand that at your need, your vulnerable state at a certain situation, which mechanic is close by, which car, I got to, it's okay, please, no, I got it, I got it. You're welcome. Imagine if you reach out to someone, even if it's an electronic source or if it's Siri or someone else, you're reaching out to learn. Do you not think that you have something to teach also? There's someone out there to teach you. What do you have to teach the world? Imagine if we belittle stitching, if we belittle cooking food, if we belittle cleaning, we belittle these things. These were the foundations of how homes and societies were built, and they still are. People who are stitching clothes are making $5 Old Navy shirts and they're making $500 Gucci shirts. It's stitching, right? At the end of the day, it's stitching. So why do we belittle that? Why do we say, I don't think I need to teach you these things? Until recently, you go to any hotel, they would have a small sewing kit in the drawer somewhere. Because if you rip something, you could just take a new. People, they've stopped doing it because people do know what that's there for. It's a lifesaver. Allah forbid you know, if Juba got caught in door handle and it ripped, I could sit there and stitch this thing up before I walk out with it, because that might be the only Juba I brought for this weekend. Think about that. But we've stopped teaching it. Why? Because we feel we have nothing to teach.
Yeah, I think a lot of attached to that, I feel like a lot of stereotypes have added to that. So if you're stitching and cleaning, then you're not educated. But if you're educated, then you wouldn't be doing this. You'd be sitting at one of the corporations being a CEO.
And so Molly Maid is making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Doing the same job that we say is not. And if you think about this, people who are in the offices, people who are air hostesses, they may be making money, but what are they doing? It's a skill of service. How to serve. Hospitality industry, hotel industry, Egypt, Saudi Arabia. How many people go to Egypt to learn this hospitality trade? How to, front desk. How to welcome people into a hotel. These are things our Islam taught us by default. How to welcome your guests. How to sit with them. How our deen taught us the elders eat first and then the children. Think about these things. Sometimes like, okay, let the kids go first so they could get out of our hair. No, our deen teaches us the kids go last, the adults go first. Indirectly, all the skills of life, all of them, were taught to us through our religion. But then, of course, through culture, we confined religion to cleaning, cooking, or being a housekeeper as being something derogatory. So you hire a maid to clean, which you're paying money. Then you hire a cook to cook, which you're paying money. You hire a tutor to come teach, which you're paying money. And Allah wanted you to be all that. It's our home, right? As I said in the conference, it's your castle. It's yours. Own it. Doesn't matter how big or small it is. It's my castle. It's my kingdom. I'm going to rule it the way I have to. I'm going to give my all because this is going to be my legacy. What my children will do, what my family will do beyond me will be what they see from this castle. And they are still learning from our homes. If they're not learning from us in our homes, they're learning from others in our homes via this, right? They're learning from the whole world via this in the homes. So, again, another example of a female Muslimah at a time that we would consider backwards, that actually was so forward that these women were the foundational pillars of the society itself. We want to stop here because there is a story of a prominent female scholar whose name was Fatima. She was the daughter of Ala-ad-Din Samarqandi. And she was such an amazing faqiha, female jurist. Who was she? What did she do? Inshallah, next week we are going to learn this. Let these stories serve as inspiration for us all, that this deen of Islam is for all of us. We should own it. We should learn it. We should learn life. and we should be confident in practicing it and propagating it to our families and our society, inshallah. Ameen. I think adhan has started, so inshallah we'll end with that. Jazakumullah khairan. We'll listen to the adhan, inshallah, then we'll make our way for sunnah.